Okay, we're all here and I see that we're live on YouTube. Can you confirm that, Christina? Or Jenny?
We are live on YouTube. We got it fixed.
Okay. Are you guys ready?
Oh.
All right, then I will call to order the open session of Monday, August 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Bishop City Council at 6:02 p.m. If we could please stand for our invocation today is by Father Cam Lemons of, I believe it's St. Timothy's Anglican Church. And then please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, which today will be given to us by Councilmember Kong.
Father Lemons is not here.
Okay, then Karen, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Everyone join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Christina, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Councilmember Kong,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis, Councilmember Ellis.
He's
Okay,
having trouble with his internet connection, but he is there.
okay. Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz
Here.
and Mayor Mahovey.
Here. Okay, public comment. Notice to the public, this time is set aside for public comment on matters not calendared on the agenda. When recognized, please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Under California law, the City Council is prohibited from generally discussing or taking actions on items not included on the agenda. However, we may briefly respond to comments or questions from the public. Did we have any public comment to our email?
There was no public comment on the email. Jenny, do you have any raised hands?
We have no raised hands.
Okay, then we will move on to report on actions taken in closed session as required by law. There were no actions taken. They were 2 performance evaluations. So
Nothing to report out. Thank you.
we have nothing to report out. And then we'll move on to our our only presentation of the evening, presentation on the Business Center on Main Street, presented by Inyo County Economic Development Administrative Analyst, Michaela Beal. Do we have Michaela here? Can we promote her to a panelist?
I just promoted her.
Hi, Michaela. Would you like to unmute yourself to give us a presentation?
Year and a half, I still can't manage to hit that button.
It happens to all of us. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Bishop City Council, first and foremost, for inviting me here to talk about this super exciting project that's going on. So without further ado, we'll see if I can share my screen and we'll get going. Let's see. 1 second. Here we go. Here we go. There we are.
All right, we can
All
see
right.
it.
Okay. So first and foremost, so the Eastern Sierra Small Business Resource Center. Hold on, it's thinking. Okay, so first and foremost, what is a Small Business Resource Center? So it's a program designed to deliver up-to-date counseling, training, and technical assistance in all aspects of small business management. So going beyond just the development of small businesses, it's really meant to provide continued technical assistance and training opportunities, even to establish small businesses. So services can include, but are not limited to, assisting small businesses with financial, marketing, production, organization, engineering and technical problems, and feasibility studies. So a little bit of history on this particular Small Business Resource Center. So this has been a long-standing vision of the Inyo County Board and Administration. In a broader sense, the goal is always to provide businesses the support and resources they need to start, grow, and thrive, thereby adding living wage jobs to Inyo County. For the past few years, in fact, the Inyo County budget has appropriated funds annually for the rent of a physical space in Bishop in order to provide this service and the improvements of that, needed for that physical space. And in 2019, feels like forever ago, the Inyo County actually hosted a planning workshop to begin to develop the Small Business Resource Center plan of action. So move past just we know this is what we really need. Let's get together and let's really get a plan to get it going. So a little more on the 2019 workshop. So again, it was held in October 2019. We hosted an all-day strategic planning session, and we had a really fantastic turnout of local stakeholders. It's a big, long list. So we had representatives from the Sierra Small Business Development Center, CSU Bakersfield, Small Business Development Center, the Sierra Business Council, Inyo County staff, City of Bishop staff, Bishop Chamber of Commerce, Lone Pine Chamber of Commerce, and Sierra Community College. So we set out with 3 goals: to collaborate on a vision, identify available resources, and formulate a strategy and timeline for implementation. So from the day, 5 priorities were agreed upon. And the first was universally, unanimously, the most important, agreed upon by the group, was a physical space. So not only to have these resources available online or just hand out information, the group really felt it was important to establish a physical space, a brick and mortar, walk in with a warm, body to really help get you the resources that you need. So along with the priorities, we established things that we needed to be able to meet these priorities. So with the physical space, there's things that we know we as the group felt was needed in order to achieve the overall goal. So with the physical space, we really wanted it to be in Bishop, the centrally located population center, and utilize one of the, empty storefronts on Main Street, really be that centralized presence on Main Street. We know that it needs confidential meeting space. We know it needs high-speed internet, and whatever staffing needs to be available outside of normal business hours. And some additional needs since COVID was, additional space for Zoom, remote and physically distanced counseling sessions. And we know that we need to seek consultants with expertise in rebuilding existing businesses. So number 2 priority was the need to leverage all assets and partners. So we know we need to add representation from the Native American and Latinx communities. We need to memorialize these partnerships in an MOU, really make an official partnership beyond just the knowledge of the people in the room, to really solidify those partnerships. We know that we want to become an official satellite office for Cal State Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. And we really want to align these strategies with the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. Number 3, the need for a really robust communication strategy, get those needs out there, get the community engaged in, this really phenomenal resource that we hope to put out there. And number 4 was build a gap on assets needed. So we know what we need. Now we need to be able to fill in those gaps on how we're going to get there. And number 5 was to develop goals and matrix to define and measure success. Are we really reaching the people that we need to reach? Are we really attaining those goals that we're setting out for ourselves? So much like everything else, in 2019 or since 2019, we've hit a lot of roadblocks due to COVID, but we have been able to make a lot of really great progress in 2020 and especially since 2021. So I won't go over all the steps of each priority, but I want to spend a little time on the physical location because we've really been able to make great progress in this area. So priority number one, again, was to establish a physical space. And after the workshop was really, I always call it really more of a summit. After that, Inyo County staff in collaboration with the city of Bishop, we developed a list of buildings that were available at the time that met the needs established by the group. And then we set out to find grants, to get this building secured and the improvements that we know that we were going to need. So we were on this journey, and then we really hit a phenomenal opportunity when City of Bishop staff, Elaine Kabala, connected us with a local Opportunity Zone investor who was looking for a project. So Opportunity Zone requirements for this particular project, once we found this investor, things really moved fast because they needed to. In fact, we went ahead and completed the purchase of the building in January 2021. So the investor pays for the building and puts an amount equal to 100% of the original investment into an escrow account. The county, along with its strategic partners, manages the project from design to occupancy using the investor's funds from the escrow account to finance the project. And then the investor requires a reasonable return on investment through lease payments. So now that we had the building, which was a huge monumental step, the next thing that we needed was a solid plan. So we needed a comprehensive business plan. And thanks to the monumental effort of Leslie Chapman, we were able in 2020 to secure a USDA Rural Business Grant to fund the comprehensive business plan. And just to note, there was also an additional component in that grant for in-person training courses that would be provided by Kern County SBDC. So going back to utilizing all our available resources, the county has also requested a federal budget earmark for the broadband connection to the digital 395 backbone, that last mile, high quality technical equipment and furniture and fixtures for the building. Our request was actually supported by both Senators Feinstein and Padilla and is actually advancing as part of the current budget bill. And while the funding request could still be cut from the budget bill, we remain optimistic. All right, so business plan. So the business plan RFP. So after we were awarded the grants, we formed a steering committee with representatives from the City of Bishop, the county, and the Sierra Small Business Council. The RFP submission period ended this past April in 2021, and deliverables for the RFP included a 5-year business plan, an operating and financing plan, marketing and communications plan, and a long-term plan to expand to a business incubator. We received 4 really awesome proposals that the committee reviewed, and we met virtually with the top 3 candidates. And from that process, a company co was selected and awarded the project to develop the comprehensive business plan for. Oh, go back. Okay, so a little bit about a company co. A company co is a Colorado-based economic development firm focused on startup ecosystems and infrastructure projects to support those ecosystems. A company co is founded by Thea Chase, who has over 25 years of broad expertise in the area of economic and business development. And for this particular project, a company co is partnering with RPI Consulting, who has over 20 years providing economic planning to small towns and rural communities in the interior West. So very on the nose for us with that consulting firm. So we are super excited to have them partnering on this project. So where are we now? So the Accompany Co team just completed their first site visit to the Owens Valley last week. They interviewed 20 stakeholders, including local business owners and government officials, and they will be doing their second visit this week. And they noted repeatedly that they had completely fantastic interviews with all of the stakeholders they interviewed. And, we know we have awesome business owners throughout the county, and it's just really great when we can hear that from someone, from the outside who comes in with all this experience and all this worldly experience and has nothing but really great things to say about all our business owners. So we were really excited by that. And where are we going? So what's next? So the business plan and all the accompanying deliverables will be complete in the next few months. Our original timeline was to have all of this complete by the end of September, but again, we have hit some time gaps due to COVID, but we do anticipate the first draft at the end of September and then a final draft at the end of October, maybe into November. We're going to start the remodel of the building. So the building that we've secured is the old Crafters Mall. So it needs quite a bit of upgrades, and we've actually created a subcommittee from our steering committee to lead the design and the layout. So they're going to get going very soon here, and that's exciting. I'm not on that subcommittee, just FYI. I can't hang a picture. So I'm really glad we have such a great steering committee that has the ability to have the foresight to really create what I'm sure will be an amazing layout. And yeah, we plan to launch the Eastern Sierra Small Business Resource Center in the first quarter of 2022. So, opening early next year, opening the doors, a full launch is ambitious, but we have a really excellent team that's moving this project forward. And this just feels now more than ever like the perfect time to get this resource out to the community. So we are super motivated, we're super excited, and, we're trucking along. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Michaela, for that presentation. It's super exciting to see that it actually ended up happening and that we were able to use our economic opportunity zone designation. So definitely big kudos to everybody involved in making all of this happen. And yeah, it seems pretty awesome.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Michaela, may I ask you a question? And if everyone else on the council knows, that's fine. I'm still going to ask my question. It
Go for
says
it.
long-term plan to expand to a business incubator accelerator. Can you tell me what that is?
So in a broad sense, an incubator is an actual location where someone can do their startup. You're that you can utilize that space to launch your business with the idea that you will eventually be able to move out of the center and stand on your own. And full disclosure, we have told our consultants that, hey, if what we're proposing, such as an incubator accelerator, isn't going to work, will you tell us that we're on the wrong path? And they said, absolutely, yes. So we will tell you if what you're wanting to do isn't going to work. So that's a hope.
Well, thank you for that. That makes perfect sense. My other question is really, I've had this question a lot from people. If I were to walk in the door of this place once it gets open in the first quarter of 2022, what kind of things could I expect to find there? How as a person who might want to start a business or who already has a small business in Bishop, what would you guys be actually providing?
Yeah, so a lot of the specifics is going to come out of the business plan, what we can sustain and also what the need is from the small business owners. We have an idea on the committee and from all the stakeholders of what we think we need or what small businesses need. But that was a really big part of the stakeholder interviews that they're doing, is to get a really good idea of what the business owners are really looking for, But what we envision, at least in the primary, is having someone, again, at the door warm welcome. It's hard sometimes to walk in, obviously, and ask for help. So to really have that person that can connect you with the resources that you need, to do that counseling, to connect you with the proper training. We plan to have, ports and areas where we can provide group trainings, group counseling. Maybe we need to hold, a business planning session, where we can bring in a counselor either in person or virtually to do that. Or maybe we need to hold a licensing, how to navigate the different licensing in the community. So again, from these interviews, and that's a big part of what the consultants are going to do, is going to drive, the needs, but that for the most part is kind of what we're envisioning to start with.
Terrific. That makes sense. I'll be excited to see the business plan.
Yeah, let's do. Thank you.
Michaela, I have a question. This is really exciting, and thank you for so much of your hard work. When we got a presentation from the tribe regarding the gas station that they just put in over on Highway 168, they have slated some space that hasn't been developed for kind of a similar type program, like incubator small businesses. Have you guys or talked to them at all about collaborating or working together? Because I know that they have a very similar type of vision with those spaces. It's helping people get their foot in the door on how to start a small business.
Yeah, no, we definitely believe that, the name of the game is collaboration in this community. Definitely. So we definitely plan to reach out to the Native American community and the tribe, in their economic development, and hopefully get someone to actually sit on the steering committee to help us drive that. But if nothing else, to really make that connection so that we're attaining similar goals in conjunction, and definitely to avoid duplication of efforts, So yeah, definitely, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, you recently, go for it, Jim.
Michaela, yeah, well, all my questions you've been pretty much got asked and you answered, but I think, when my wife and I had our small business here, there's a ton of information out there. It's sometimes finding it and what actually applies, and you can Google anything and find it. But I love the concept you're going with here and what you're going to bring to the community, because having somewhere to go to find an answer and talk to someone, and because sometimes the question you're asking isn't really the question you should be asking or you need to ask. So
Absolutely.
I think our community needs this. A lot of small businesses out there are doing okay, but can they be taken that next level just by someone to help them, guide them through the millions of questions and problems and issues there are in an ever-changing world. So thank you for everything. I look forward to this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a really useful resource. I actually had somebody reach out to me a week and a half ago saying, hey, I'm in the middle of buying a business in town. How do I get help with all the paperwork that I need to fill out, et cetera, et cetera. And so
Yeah.
I definitely directed them to someone who is on your big comprehensive committee, but in the future, it'd be good to just be able to say, walk through those doors.
Absolutely. Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Yep. And I want to thank you once more, Michaela, and definitely
Great.
Keep us posted and let us know how we can help.
Yes, and thank you all. Thank you again.
Okay, our next item is Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Bureau update report, prepared and presented by the Executive Director, Tawny Thompson. Hi, Tawny.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. I just really want to say I thought Michaela did a great job of explaining what this new Small Business Resource Center is all about. I've been part of the committee from the start, and it's really, really exciting to see this come together, and the chamber's super happy to be participating in part of it. and the consultant have a lot of confidence in this consulting crew that's here doing the on-site interviews. And they're really building a business plan that's going to actually fit the needs of our community rather than, just taking a cookie cutter approach. This is what this community did and trying to plop it in here. That's not what's happening at all. It's really being built very organically from what the needs of our business community are here. So super excited about that. Hopping into my report, just briefly, the COVID-19 situation here at our visitor center. We're all wearing masks, even though it's not mandated as of yet, when we are interacting with guests, just to be on the safe side. And also when social distancing isn't possible. We do have signs that are posted asking people to mask up. We've had a very few people come in without a mask, and we just offer them one, and we've had no pushback whatsoever. So just kind of letting people know that's how it works here. You do have to put on a mask if you're going to come and see us in person. And it really hasn't been a problem. Speaking of masks, I was able to work with Cal OES again to get another supply of masks that we are distributing to local businesses. Some people want an N95 if they're going to be working, and I believe the rule is the employer has to provide that to them, and those can get kind of pricey. So we were able to get free masks from the state. So we do have a supply of those. So if anybody's listening and they need masks or sanitizer, give us a call and we'll get that to you. On the Chamber of Commerce side of things, we recently had our official Chamber Board installation dinner, gave the oath of office to our newly elected board members and said goodbye to some leaving office. It was fun, but yet a little bit official, and really want to thank those council members that were able to come and enjoy the evening with us. It means a lot to our board that you guys came and hopefully enjoyed the evening. Our golf fun day is one of the only real fundraisers that we do for the Chamber of Commerce. And we did that on July 31st. It was really successful. Thanks to a good partnership with lots of co-sponsors and the golf course. I think we raised a little over $3,000. So that's almost a load of fish. So that's good. Upcoming is our strategic planning meetings. And in the past, some of your council members and or staff have attended. We're doing it a little different this year. Rather than having like one big long 8-hour meeting, we're splitting it into two. And in our September meeting, we're going to focus on the Chamber of Commerce side of our operations. So our chamber budget, our chamber events and activities, and what we do local to local type of work. And then in our October meeting, we'll focus on the Visitors Bureau. So we've divided it in half. I think we're going to start at 9 o'clock, and it's going to be a Zoom meeting on the 8th. And we welcome any participation from council and or staff that would like to participate in that. Do you guys have any chamber questions, or I can switch to Visitors Bureau side?
My only comments with regards to that are it was a great installation dinner. It's really lovely to be up at Cardinal Village. And I think that's a great idea to split that strategic planning meeting up. 8-hour meetings are pretty daunting.
By the time you get, to the end of the day, you're just like, whatever, we'll do whatever. So
Yeah.
we felt like it would be more productive and easier on our brains if we split it up.
Mhm.
We'll try it. We've never done it this way. We'll try it. Hopefully it goes well that way. So Visitors Bureau side of things, we've been really quite busy. The Visitor Center has been busy, actually quieted down quite a bit in the last couple of weeks when kids started getting back to school. And we just, we're still not seeing any international visitors, which are usually a big part of the late summer and early fall. So, things are quieting down a little bit. We kind of expect that, but when you're going full throttle and all of a sudden it slows down, it's kind of a little bit shocking to the system, but it'll pick up here again with the fall colors. Hopefully, if we can get some of this smoke cleared out of here so people can take pictures, it'll pick back up again. A couple of projects not related to the visitor center that we've been doing is hosting media fam tours. So last week, the 12th through the 14th, we had a gal named Whitney that was here from Herman Global or HMS Global. And we've worked with them the last 3 or 4 years. They send a rep out for 3 or 4 days to go do all of the activities that people like to do, write stories in their firsthand experience, take photos, through their lens, and then use that information as social media posts, blog stories, and then give us some of the content that we can use also through our channels. But then the really neat thing is they, I believe 7 languages, it's translated and then placed on social media networks in 7 different countries. So we've done very well with them. Even though we don't have international travel coming right now, we're still planting the seeds with our, friends in Germany and Japan and Korea, because they will come. They will come eventually when they can. So she was very, very busy. Had a great time while she was here. I've got another media person that's coming the end of September. He's a traditional newspaper writer from the Bay Area. And he's published in 5 Bay Area newspapers. We met him several years ago when we hosted a outdoor writers conference, and he's coming back to do some fall stories here. Switching gears, we talked about fish stocking. Our 3rd load of fish is coming tomorrow from Wright's Rainbows in Idaho. And this is the 3rd of our 3-part co-op stocking that we do with the Bishop Creek Canyon partners. So that'll be nice and kind of nice end of the summer up there for them. We're helping to promote lots of fall events like the fair, the Mill Pond Music Festival, the Fall Colors Car Show, the Ventura County Motorcycle Club. Folks are coming 2nd weekend in October. So lots going on there. And then the Visitor Impact Study. I think that Elaine has told you that we're finally getting that up and going again. We started in the winter of 1920, and then the stupid pandemic put the kibosh on it. And so we feel like it's time and ready to start again. So we'll get some fall interviews going, I think within the next couple of weeks. And then I've just given you a look back on our occupancy rates. As you can see this year, April and May and even June were ahead of our 2019 numbers. And July was not, and August is probably going to be just a little below the 2019 numbers, the way it's stacking up so far. But that's still really, really good compared to many other destinations that we are in communication with. So pretty on par with what we expected. Actually, I didn't really think that we were going to exceed June's numbers from 2019, but there's a lot of demand. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, people have definitely been pent up and wanting to go to beautiful areas, which is where we live.
Yep. And there's lots of things affecting, us now. School being back in session, smoke, the wildfire smoke is just, it's not that great to come and go for a hike right now. It's kind of tough. But so, hopefully things will clear up, but keep doing the best that we can.
Thanks for that comprehensive reporting, for everything that you and your staff do, Tommy.
We appreciate the opportunity to keep you posted and the community posted.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Tony, I guess I have a question about your September 8th strategic planning, the first part. Is this something that we could come and go to, or is it going to mess the whole thing up if we come late or leave early? You can tell me later if you want.
No, I don't think it will mess anything up. And I'll publish the agenda so you can sort of see like about what time we might be talking about what parts. Like you probably don't care a whole lot about our bylaws, but you might, but so you can sort of see if how to use your time the best.
Terrific. Thanks, Tony.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Tani, and
Thanks, guys.
we'll talk to you later.
All right, nice to see everybody.
All right, moving on to our department head reports. Our first one will be by Mustache Dwayne, featuring Fire Chief Dell.
Good evening, Mayor. How am I coming through?
Loud and clear.
How's everybody tonight?
Doing well.
Just real quick, there's over 10,000 firefighters battling 15 large fires throughout the state. Burned over 1 million acres, more than last year, unfortunately. The Inyo County Fire Departments have stepped up this year. We're supporting that effort with 20 committed firefighters, 3 fire engines, and 2 water tenders. So that's a water tender from Independence, a water tender from Lone Pine, 2 engines from Big Pine, and 1 engine from us, from Bishop. We're staffing an engine out of the Bishop Fire Station to support the CAL FIRE mission while their resources are really thin. So our volunteer firefighters are cycling through and doing shift work. And right now we have paid firefighters on 24/7 in Bishop, and they're ready to respond to any calls in the Inyo or Mono counties. Might be one happening right now. And then we're also supporting a Big Pine engine who's at the Caldor fire right now. The Caldor fire is over on the other side, is pushing hard towards Lake Tahoe, and last reports was only 14 miles and pretty unstoppable. So the smoke that we have from today is from the 14,000 acre French fire that's near Lake Isabella. And anyways, we continue to be busy. We had a car fire this morning and fire alarms and several other calls. So we're continuing to be busy ourselves. So news from the Forest Service and BLM today that they've gone into stage 2 fire restrictions. And that basically means just no campfires. They're joining Inyo County. Inyo County parks are also banning campfires. No outdoor smoking unless you have a 3-foot cleared area, and then no welding or construction with open flames. If you have a valid California campfire permit, which you can get at readyforwildfire.org, you can use a pressure liquid fuel, jelly petroleum, or a gas stove. But you have to have that valid permit, and the fines are pretty hefty from what I'm understanding. And then campfires are still being allowed in the county campgrounds that are operated by concessionaires. So if you're at Browns, you can still have a campfire. And those are the reason for that is those are the maintained and watered, and there's area around. So that's where we're at. And the last thing is we're gearing up for the Derby. Lots of cars are already entered, and we're ready for a good show on Labor Day, helping out with the parade and all sorts of fair stuff and getting ready. So, any questions?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks all of the volunteers and everybody on your crew. I mean, they talk about like a job that gets very little recognition in many ways, and so we definitely are grateful for everything that they do. My only question is, with regards to all of these fires that are going on, what percentage would you say are like man-made versus like actual acts of nature?
So, looking at the 15 major fires, there was a lightning storm in Northern California that caused a bulk of those bigger ones. The ones that are they haven't put out the cause for the Caldor or the Dixie yet, I don't think, or the French. But typically you see a good chunk of them man-made. I couldn't give you, without looking, I couldn't follow up on you and find out, but I know it's probably about 50-50 right now with the 15 large ones being lightning and then man-made. The ones in Northern California are season enders is what they call them, and they're going to burn until it snows. So we can expect resources to be stuck on those for the rest of the year. And then we have to remember that at this time of the year, the fire season swaps from Northern California to Southern California. And we haven't even started with the winds and the drying out and the burning in this part of the state. And so, so we're looking for, it looks bleak. I'm getting phone calls weekly from Cal OES requesting resources. In fact, I got a district chief today that said, hey, what can you send out? And I'm like, sorry, chief, we're tapped. We got 20 guys out of the county already working and committed. And he's like, well, thanks for everything you're doing. And typically they have around 1,000 local engines. And by local, I mean not state or federal. So cities, you know, San Bernardino, Rialto, LA, Bishop. In the last couple years with with the bad seasons, there's only been about 700 available. And this year with COVID and staffing and issues, they've only been able to muster about 350 to 400. They got a little bit more participation this week, but they're really having a hard time finding resources. They're going out of state asking for engines through their EMAC program and all sorts of other problems. You know, we're pretty thin here on the eastern side. I see that we have engines over in the Caldor and things moving over to other parts, the French down in Kern and all sorts of stuff moving around. So, so we're walking on our tippy toes, hoping that nothing happens.
Well, it's pretty bleak. And if you look at the forecast, it still looks like summer out there, except for the smoke. Any other questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question. Joe, how's our EMT program going? Are we still waiting on that MOU from Simons?
Yeah, we've had a meeting. I had talks with Jeff Grange, the owner of the company, and he's instructed me to work out the deal with Judd Simons, and we've had some unproductive talks in the last couple of weeks as far as getting that MOU signed. So our next step will be at the JPA meeting. I'll kind of lay out some tracks so we can move forward and see what we want to move forward from there. But I think you know, we've informally been responding to these EMS calls. I think it's time to formalize our program and start moving forward with that. So, without the transport piece until we can work it out.
Okay, thank you.
And Joe, the Derby is one of the fundraisers for the fire department, correct?
Yeah, that's the biggest fundraiser that we have for the Firefighter Association that we have. So
right.
And
So if anybody out in the public is wondering how you can support our fire department this year, especially since the 4th of July firework, which used to be one of their big fundraisers, got switched out of the airport. Make sure to have a good time at the Derby and know that you're supporting the fire department.
yeah, it should be great. Crashing cars.
I've done that once. It wasn't that great.
My neck hurts just thinking about it.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Then next up, we'll move on to Police Chief Richard Standridge. Hey, Rich.
Hey, how's everybody tonight?
We're doing well. How are you doing?
Good. So got a lot going on. I'm sure you've seen a lot of officer activity, a lot of officers driving around town. We have been extremely busy with calls for service. It's just that time of the year, the heat, traffic's getting congested. We're taking some injury collisions, some non-injury collisions. So they're out there doing a good job, also doing quite a bit of traffic enforcement at the same time. We've been hit with quite a few domestic disturbance type calls, things like that they're responding to. So it's taking up a lot of time, but it's good. You know, they're staying active and out in public. School's back in session. We haven't had any major complaints yet in the school zones. We've got the crossing guards out. Rich Watt's done a good job getting that program up and going. I mean, as usual, we can still hire a couple, you know, that are needed. So if anybody's listening tonight and they want a good part-time job, you know, come see us. We're ready for some more crossing guards, and we'll get that going. So, but I'm going to try to attend the next school board meeting, get over there and introduce myself to those folks and kind of see how things are going over there and touch base. I'm going to make that a regular, try to make that a regular deal at least a couple of times a year to go over and meet with them. On a couple of positive notes here at the PD, I finished today meeting with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I know you folks were aware of how we've been moving ahead with that in the past, to look at some money savings for vehicles and things like that. So I had actually, Destin and I have met with them not too long ago, but I had asked them to separate all of the PD numbers out just to make sure we are getting the cost savings that they promised, and it looks pretty good. So I think with City Administrator Phillips, Destin and I think we're looking at moving forward with that, which is going to be a good cost savings over, you know, the next 3 to 5 years for the city as a whole, which I'm really excited about, because it's going to allow us to replace cars a lot sooner and keep a very good looking and manageable fleet for the city. So as I talked about last time, we had flown the sergeant position for the Bishop Police Department. I have 2 very good qualified internal candidates that have submitted for it. So we're going to close that this coming Friday and then look to get testing done within the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, you know, within the next council meeting or 2, we'll have a new sergeant promoted within the department. Also on a positive note, we have recently offered conditional employment to a young lady from the Central Valley. She has accepted. So we're waiting to get her psych and physical done, and she's in the process of getting moved over here, and she's excited about getting started. As a matter of fact, when she came over to finalize her background interview with us, she stayed and did a ride along and then called to tell me how excited she was to be a member of this department. So we're looking forward to getting her on board, and our current cadet in the academy, from the information I've received, is doing well. But we're actually within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to make a physical trip down there and go see her and let her know that we support her here, and we're excited about getting her back and getting her to work with us as well. So we're in the process, Lieutenant Ellsworth and I, of digitizing a lot of our memos and just kind of streamlining things, getting rid of paper. So there's going to be a lot of work over the next few months internally here, and it's going to get the processes good and cut down time frames and make things more manageable. So with that being said, we're also looking at doing destructions of old, outdated property, reports, things like that. Start getting rid of clutter and start getting more efficient, maximizing space. And we're still working on getting the blinds and the carpet done in the building, but as with all the other things going on right now, COVID, different things, it's getting harder and harder to get the contractors in here, but that's still a process. So we're doing policy reviews as well, kind of getting our policies back in line, making sure everything's updated. He and I will be working on that as the months go on. And with our computer upgrade, that is still going well. We just resubmitted some plans to the Department of Justice to get their approval on some things to make sure we stay in compliance with all of our law enforcement systems. And we haven't heard back yet, but I think everything's going to continue to move in the right direction there, and we'll get that up and running for the folks and help them out, make their job much more efficient moving forward. Both he and Rich Watt have done an excellent job putting that program together, and I think when the folks get those in the cars, it's going to be really exciting times for them, make them much more efficient out in the field. So with that being said, I was able to write 2 letters of commendation over this last couple of weeks for Officer Brady Peak and Officer Brian Hohenstein for some excellent service they provided to a citizen. I think, did you get to see that letter, Mayor, that was written by the citizen?
Yep, I was going to comment on it afterwards, but go on.
I think you did. I just want to make sure you'd seen it because I know it was addressed to you, but sometimes I get things, I don't know if you'd had a chance to see it, but it was they went above and beyond to help these folks out, and so I took the opportunity to get them letters into their file of commendation for them. And so I think the last thing I've got to cover is, you know, there was a burglary at the Catholic Church last night, if everyone heard. They got hit for about $5,500 worth of property, and just in case anybody asks, we're aggressively working that to see what leads we can run down. So that's about it from the police department.
That sounds great. Yeah, I was gonna relay the information to everybody else about this letter that we received commending both of our officers. I guess there were some tourists from out of town driving through, and their car broke down in the middle of the road. And within minutes, our officers before they could even call for help, our officers were there from patrolling and really helped them out, got them over to auto shops and to another one, and it was, yeah, they were extremely thankful, and so I wanted to definitely commend those two as well. So,
That's the word of mouth that'll keep people coming back to Bishop right there.
yep.
Hey, Chief, quick question. I saw
sir.
your press release on your Facebook posting on the Catholic Church incident. Is it possible, are there pictures of those items that are possible to put out there? Because they're kind of something that might, if somebody sees that in someone's house or sees it somewhere, might spark a chalice. Maybe people don't know what that is.
Yeah, we'll work on updating it. I just wanted to get something out there as quick as possible, but I want to make sure we get our investigative leads and everything run down, and then we'll develop a little more on that and get that.
Yeah,
out
just
there.
a thought. Perfect.
Richard, do you mind updating council on our walk last week?
Yes, we did. We got to Councilmember Garcia and I, we actually did some foot patrol down Main Street in Bishop, and we hit as many businesses as we could and went and introduced ourselves to a lot of the local business owners who I had not had the opportunity to meet yet. Passed out some business cards, talked to some folks, which I did make it back to the store, by the way, council member, and
Good.
dropped off my business card to her. Kind of talked a little bit with the Saracoso college folks about maybe, doing some things with them and for job interviews and resume preparation, things like that, where I could help out there. But it was really successful, and we talked about kind of making that probably at least a quarterly deal to go out and do, and as weather permits. But I think the feedback was good, and I think it's important to do. So if any of the rest of council want to join us, we'd love to have you, or you can call me and I'll do it with each one of you individually too. But I think it was very successful, and I think that at first Councilmember Garcia will tell you a couple of businesses we went into, I think they were kind of taken aback. They just didn't know what to say or what to expect, and then but you break down those barriers, had some good conversation, and I want to make myself a little more available there, because I think hard, constructive dialogue and feedback is important. And I don't want to always hear how well we're doing. Sometimes I want to hear what we're not doing so well and where we can do better or where we're missing the boat, because we get caught up in different things all over town. So sometimes that individual touch will kind of put you back in reality real quick.
They were
That's
not
great.
expecting us, and there's probably no other chief in the past did it. Probably, I don't know. And we also run into a Hispanic family on Main Street, and we talked to them. They were very appreciative to see the face of the person they can go and reach out to in case they need help. So seeing and talking to the chief of police was very helpful for this family.
Yeah.
Good contacts were made.
I'm really glad you guys did that. That's great. That's just great. Kudos for that.
I just had one really
sure.
quick question. First, that's really exciting. I would love to come with you next time, Jose, if you guys are going to go out again. That sounds like a great thing to do. So our young lady in the academy, where is she? Is she halfway through? When do we expect her to be finished?
She's about a little over a month in, so we expect to have her back in November, late November timeframe. So she's going to probably be closer to the first of the year before we're really having her up and running and working. So I want that program with both of these ladies coming in to be successful, because we don't get as many trainees as other departments do just based on our mere size. So we're going to make sure that we take our time and the program's done right and they get the proper training to be acclimated to Bishop. But I think, like I said, mid-November. The other one I would like to have on by October. It's just merely getting her the psych and medical, which are going to happen here real quick. And then she's already prepped to move over here. She's just got to give 2 weeks notice at her job, and then she'll be here. We're making arrangements today to get uniforms and everything for her.
Terrific. I'm excited to have some women on the force here. So
Yes,
thank you very much for that.
I think it's going to be great. It really is.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Nope. Thanks so much, Reg. We'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
later.
Talk to you soon.
Next up, we have Public Works Director Destin Deshawn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There's just a few things to update you on. The restrooms at Highway 6 should be there this week. Caltrans was able to get their side of the contract agreement executed and then made the call today to have them placed down there. So that's exciting. Probably something even more exciting is Rich and I and Gary Millsey met with Gabe Mueller with the Friday night markets, first Friday night markets last week, because they're having, it's such a success, they need more room, which is a great thing. So we're gonna let them expand further to the west on Academy Street, kind of have a little areas on Warren each side there so that people saw their driveways. But that's exciting. They've overgrown the area, and I hope we have to keep growing it. AT&T has finally, and this has been a long time since we talked about it, their new cell tower over at Well 2 that we leased them ground. They're submitting plans tomorrow. So construction should start on that, I'm guessing, in probably the next month or less. Public Works, we had our maintenance worker test and applications last Wednesday night. We had a little lower number than normal. We had 29 applicants, which is still a great number. We narrowed that down to 10 through the testing and the application process that we will be interviewing this Friday, and then hope that to get 2 or 3 out of that for a second interview, maybe have someone on board by the middle of September. So that's great news. We've actually been the 2 positions down for a little over a year now, so it'd be nice to get a little closer to full staff. What else would I have here? Oh, and the East Line Street Bridge, another sign of the times. 2 great companies sent in proposals to do the environmental and preliminary design. We'll interview both of those consultants in the next month and hopefully get going by October 1 on that work. And other than that, I have nothing else to report unless you have questions of me.
No, it sounds, you guys have plenty to do. You're always on top of it. So yeah, thanks for that. Any other?
Quick question, Destin.
Sure.
When we're talking about the East Line Street Bridge project, is there going to be communication with the new airport folk about how that's all going to work out when the bridge gets taken out and the airport opens?
Exactly, and that will be a big part of the environmental process, is the effects. You know, that not only is it environmental with the birds and the bush, the trees, but it's also how do we affect the neighbors that are to the east of the canal, the 7-Eleven and the airport. So I'm anxious to get someone on board and start looking at that old bridge and see if we can keep half of it in place at a time. You know, that'll be a lot of the questions early on. But yes, the airport, and maybe it'll bring to light another access point such as Y Road to the airport. It will be dearly needed, I think.
Great.
But yeah, it'll be a great bridge, a 60-foot wide bridge, sidewalks on both sides with some separation, you know, from between pedestrians and cars. A much needed project, with especially when you look at the summertime with all the kids on the bridge.
Great.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on to our Community Services Manager, Dan McElroy. Thanks, Destin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good, Mayor and Council. Mayor, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Just a quick update from Community Service and our Parks and Recreation. As you guys haven't seen, on Saturdays, the park is in full swing with soccer. I haven't got a full number from her, but typically we host about 700 kids in soccer per year. So over the last couple of weeks, we've built 13 soccer fields in the city park, which encompass basically all of our baseball and soccer and grass areas. We're back in school, so that means we're back in after school program. After school program is, as you guys know, I always say it's full, and it has actually quite a large waiting list. So as we move forward, we'll be looking at ways that we can expand our after school program. I know Brittany is already working on that, but what the limitations are with that is space for us. So hopefully I'll be coming to council very soon with some options for us to expand that program, and that way we're able to service more families and more kids as well. Next up is we are prepping for Labor Day, which means a whole lot of cleaning and edging and just getting town beautiful. I know Waylon and Sam continue to work on Main Street and around City Hall, but you'll see our crews working extra hard in the next week just to make everything great for all the visitors that are coming to the area. Next up, we have started a new program. As you know, as I explained to you, our KIND program had failed due to lack of employees. So we were struggling to find employees for that, but it is back at least 2 days a week. Jessica is back on board and she is able to give us 2 days a week. But with that, the other days of the week, we came up with a gymnastics club that is hosted at City Hall in the gymnasium, which is right now is 5 days a week and in the afternoon. So we're supplying those kids with everything we can to keep those families going and to keep everybody happy with some sort of after school activities for our community. So next up is our adult soccer league. Waylon has everything out there. He's getting ready. He believes that he'll be taking the field around September 11th for adult soccer league on field 1. And that's all I have tonight, unless you guys have anything for me.
Nothing for me. Have you seen the number of visitors at the park drop off as the smoke has rolled in, or?
Today was a definite, you could definitely see that it was a drop off, but I think that's not really too much to smoke. I think that's a lot of families and stuff are back in school.
Cool. Okay.
It's kind of, with the pandemic last year, we never saw a drop off, and this year we actually saw a drop off in the amount of crowds. But we make up for it on Saturday. If you guys come down, it's pretty impressive to see all those kids and families and everybody down there. It's awesome. So.
Cool. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up, we have our Associate Planner and Economic Development Coordinator, Elaine Kabala.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Very good. Not an enormous amount to report this evening. We are having Planning Commission tomorrow. There are 2 items on that agenda. As Ms. Thompson at the Visitors Center mentioned, we did have a meeting with our partners about kicking off the visitors study again. And we're talking with our consultant about starting that in the fall. We have sent out requests for consultants for grant writing. And then I have had very good conversations with our consultants on the specific plan. We expect to have an administrative draft at the end of this month or in mid-September, early September, with a public draft available in October. There will be another round of public input we're planning for, and then we'll be able to take that to the council in December. So looking forward to having that project finalized. Are there any questions for me this evening?
None for me. I mean, you've definitely kept us with a lot of work over the last couple of meetings. So, and we'll be seeing you in a little bit, won't we? All right. Then last up, we have our City Administrator, Ron Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Mahovey, members of the council. There was a question recently from a member of the council about our work on our unfunded liability and how we're addressing that. I've been working with K&N Public Finance as well as other financial advisors, and these people come highly recommended both from Dean and from other financial advisors I've worked with in the past. And they have developed a proposal for us to consider for municipal financial advisory services. That proposal is in review. And we hope to bring that forward to the city council in the next 30 days or so. So we are proceeding along those lines. I've been, along with Elaine and Dustin and Karen Kong, been working on the Sterling Heights facility and seeing if there's some way we can find funding for IMACA to buy that facility. I contacted Devin Mathis' office, and his staff sent quite a long list of things to prepare to see if we could find state funding. And I forwarded that on to Larry Emerson, and we'll see if anything can come of that. But I appreciate Assemblymember Mathis and staff working with us closely on that. I just would like to mention you'll be considering the housing element for adoption this evening. That what an excellent job that Elaine and our consultant have done working on that project. I think it's an excellent product and something that will be very helpful to the city in the future. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to them for their good work on that. I've been meeting with Ross Corner regarding selling 2 more mobile homes that have come available in the Sunrise Mobile Home Park. And I have paperwork right here on my desk to sign for a sale of one that went for $6,000 over the asking price. So there continues to be a very good market for those homes as they become available. Councilmember Garcia and I met with Mexico Consul Adriana Gonzalez and her staff who were in Bishop a week and a half ago. They did an excellent job, and I'll allow Councilmember Garcia to report on that under his reports, but it was a very good session, and we appreciated their work here working with the Mexican nationals in this area. Another meeting we had a week and a half ago was with Derek Kirk, the Regional Business Development Specialist with GoBiz, who was here. Elaine, again, coordinated these meetings with the county and everyone that needed to be there, the chamber and so on. The council member Ellis and Kong met, and Mayor Mahovey met with him as well in 2 separate meetings. So there weren't more than 2 of you present at one time, but I was very impressed with him. He's unusually, well, I don't want to, how do I say this? He impressed me as being extremely competent, and has already gotten back to us with the discussion of setting up a small committee to work on getting us in a position where we may be able to find recognition from EDA for this region, both Mono and Inyo counties, and possibly find funding for economic development in the future. So I just wanted to mention that and say that I think that's the beginning of a good relationship and something that may benefit us in the future. I believe that's all I have.
That's it. You don't have a lot more. That seems like a lot and lots going on.
Well, there were 38 items in my report, but those are the highlights.
Thanks, Ron.
I have a question. Ron, is Sterling Heights for sale? Like, are they looking actively to sell it?
Yes, they're looking either to sell it or lease it. And I think their preference and my preference would be that IMACA buy it. We'll see how that goes. There's a considerable amount of state funding available right now for housing. that's 78 units that could be used for possibly 3 or 4 different uses under IMACA's ownership. One key thing is to also find sufficient resources for operating the facility, not only purchasing it. So we're just trying to support IMACA however we can and to try to get this facility, because it certainly could be a great asset for housing the homeless and veterans and others in the community that need that facility.
Is there any leverage where IMACA could get it over a private buyer? Like someone who's looking to develop it into something?
I think the leverage they have is that a private buyer would be possibly in the same position as the current owner, where there is not enough usage of the facility to justify the purchase by a private buyer.
Got it.
So it's kind of negative leverage, but that's kind of how I look at it. Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
I just think that the people we were speaking with were very interested in allowing us kind of first dibs at it, and have yet to actually put it out big for sale. That they want to see if we can get our ducks in a row first before they let it out for everyone else to look at, which I thought was really great of them, and hopefully we'll be able to benefit the city.
That's great.
Do you have a sense of like how long they would be willing to hold out? Because we do know that this project, or that this facility would be ideal for funding from Project Home Key that the state is running, but I'm sure that that's a pretty long and onerous process to get funding to be able to do it.
That's how long. I would say within 6 months if possible, but it could be longer. That's why I'm trying to work with the legislator and his staff to see if there's any way to shortcut the process. They recently got $12 million to buy a facility. I think it was in San Luis Obispo, if I'm not mistaken.
It was like a Motel 6.
Yeah, we're not looking at that much money, I don't believe at all. But if we can get the attention of the state people, and I think we have somewhat of an advantage or a leg up, because we have no land available for this kind of a facility, and for any kind of facility for the homeless. And this is just a great opportunity that we'd love to take advantage of.
Well, do definitely keep us posted on anything going on there. And thanks for that update.
Thank you.
All right, then we will move on to our consent calendar. So notice to the public, all matters under the consent calendar are considered routine by the city and will be acted on by one motion. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We don't have anything in the public comment email. Jenny, do you have any raised hands?
We have no raised hands.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions from the council? Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Christina, call for the vote.
Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Hey, public hearings. So our first we have 2 public hearings today. Our first public hearing is a public hearing in consideration of a resolution certifying the negative declaration for the 2021 to 2029 housing element update and amending the general plan to add the 2021 to 2029 housing element, superseding and replacing the existing housing element. And this is going to Miss Elaine Kabala.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Jenny, could I please ask you to promote Sandra Bauer as well? We have our consultant here this evening and she's going to be providing the introductory presentation.
I just promoted.
Thank you. As introduced, this is the public hearing for adoption of the 2021 to 2029 housing element. This general plan update is state mandated every 8 years. And we are required to take action on the draft plan or the final plan by August 28th, or else we fall out of an 8-year cycle and into a 4-year cycle per housing and community development. So with that, this evening, Sandra is going to provide a presentation of very brief overview of the process, mostly focusing on what we heard from the council during the last city council workshop. And then staff would recommend that your council holds a public hearing. With that, I'm just going to take a moment and get the presentation set up.
Yeah, I think so. Can everybody hear me?
We can, Sandra.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Let me just move to the next slide, Elaine. Elaine's going to well, I could probably do this myself. Yeah, so the hearing tonight is the final step in the housing element update and the CEQA review. If council acts tonight to approve, the housing element will go on to the state, where HCD will make a final determination regarding certification. And HCD is very eager. They sent an email 2 weeks ago asking for a status update. Elaine responded that council would be considering approval tonight. HCD responded quickly that they were glad to hear that the city is on schedule and they'll be looking for the final submittal shortly. Throughout this process, we've had great participation from residents and staff, the MACA, HCD, and the decision makers, all of which has shaped this housing element update, and the final document before you tonight does reflect the community's housing goals. The initial study concluded that there will be no significant adverse environmental effects if council approves the housing element update, and no mitigation measures are required. Future projects that result from the action program will be subject to CEQA and at the time that they are formally proposed. We received no comments on the draft initial study during a 30-day review period, and the process is now complete. A notice of determination has been included with the council's agenda materials. This notice must be filed with the county clerk and with the state clearinghouse if council acts to approve the project tonight. Just to review where we stand after years of sustained effort and diligent planning by the city, we do anticipate that the city will exceed the regional housing needs assessment allocation for this coming period through 2029, which calls for a total of 118 new units. We're anticipating that in reality, the city will provide around 157 units. You can see from this table that a large proportion of these units are expected to be in the extremely low, very low, and low income brackets. And there will be, if it goes as expected, a relatively modest shortfall with respect to the moderate income units. Looking ahead past 2029, and although we don't have the RHNA allocation for that period, the current projections indicate that the city will be in a good position to meet the needs during that next update. And we actually expect that in that cycle, that there will be a good number of units in the moderate and above moderate income category. The action program contains 5 goals. They're supported by 30 actions. This time we've provided in the next couple of slides a timeline that shows when each of these goals and actions would be implemented. Some of them show up at several locations throughout the period. And I know that that came up in the last council hearing. So let me just go on to these next slides. I'm not going to go over all of the actions, but you'll be able to see the timeline. And by the end of this year, so really there's no delay in getting started here. 8 of the actions will be underway, and several of these have to do with informing the public, but also notifying agencies other than Los Angeles of the city's interest in surplus lands and facilitating the mobile home park resident ownership program, public education, pursuing these grant funding opportunities, and clarifying the qualified rehabilitation credits. And then you can see that we have 3 additional actions that would be to be completed by the end of 2023, and then another series of actions by the December of 2024. And again by 2026. And then we have several actions that would be due prior to the adoption of the next housing element. And one of those, which is kind of interesting, action 3.5, is to seek additional investments in the opportunity zone. And it seems that this business startup could be a very good nexus between the housing goals and the downtown specific plan and this startup that's being planned. And then we have a series of actions that are ongoing and annual. These continue from year to year. And I'll not go through each of them, but you can see that there's quite a bit to be done throughout the cycle. Staff does anticipate that there will be significant grant funding in the coming few years. And the housing element sets forth a clear strategy and very clear objectives of the city for providing housing in accordance with state requirements. Council's also made a commitment to hire a grant writer who will facilitate efforts to obtain funds for all of the city's departments. And council can support those efforts to obtain grant funding by establishing specific council-directed project funding priorities and guidelines for the allocation of staff resources. Information that's in the housing element update indicates that the city is in a very strong position to provide needed housing. And this should make the city competitive in its efforts to obtain grant funds for housing projects. And that concludes my brief presentation tonight, but of course, I welcome any questions.
Thank you for that, Sandra. So I guess at this point, I will open the public hearing. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment?
We have nothing in our public comment email. Jenny, do you have any raised hands?
There are no raised hands.
Okay. Do we have any council questions for staff? Questions or comments?
Thank you very much. It's the same, exactly the same as what we saw last time. And it's just wonderful to see. And I'm glad that we are in such a good position to meet the most of the standards that the state has put on us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a great thorough framework, and we look forward to be able to doing whatever we can to try and implement it.
Well, allow me to thank you all again for the opportunity to work with you. It is such a tremendous pleasure. It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
And I'd also just like to echo again my gratitude to Sandra for stepping in on this project. It was a tight turnaround. The legislature has passed an enormous amount of new requirements since the last housing cycle. And Sandra's done a wonderful job serving as a planning department annex to the city of Bishop and preparing this document. So I extend my heartfelt gratitude to her. Thank you.
Okay, then can I get a motion to close the public hearing? Do we need a motion for that? No? Okay, since there are no comments from the public, I will then close the public hearing. Thanks again, Sandra and Elaine, for all of your hard work on this. It's a great document.
Thank you. At this time, staff would request that the city council will adopt a resolution of the city council of the city of Bishop certifying the negative declaration and amending the general plan to add the 2021-2029 housing element, superseding and replacing the existing housing element by title only, please.
Okay, can I get a motion?
All right, I'll step up here. I would like to make a motion that we certify the negative declaration for the 21 to 2029 housing element update and amend the general plan to add the 2021-2029 housing element, superseding and replacing the existing housing element by title only.
I'll second that.
Okay, Christina, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Is the resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop certifying the negative declaration of the 2021-2029 housing element update and amending the general plan to add the 2021-2029 housing element, superseding and replacing the existing housing element by title only. Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
and Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay,
Yeah.
then we will move on to our next public hearing. It is a public hearing in consideration of a resolution approving a taxi franchise application pursuant to Chapter 5.28 of the Bishop Municipal Code. So I will open the public hearing and call on Mr. Deshawn for a staff report.
Good evening again, Council. So Chapter 5.28 of the city's municipal code governs the issuance of taxi franchises that operate in the city. It requires a taxi company to apply for and obtain a franchise from the city before operating within the city. Taxi franchises are required to comply with all the regulations imposed by the city and pay 2% of gross receipts. Mammoth Taxi has applied to the city of Bishop for a franchise. Staff in the city attorney's office has prepared the attached documents for council consideration that, if adopted, will grant the applicant a taxi franchise. And I also want to let, at the end of my analysis discussion as well, I asked owner of Mammoth Taxi, Scotty Marzoni, to be present for any questions that may come up. I just don't want to forget as I get going here. Chapter 5.28 requires the city council to make certain findings before it can issue a taxi franchise. These findings include that public convenience and necessity exists for the issuance of the franchise. The applicant is financially responsible and a fit and proper person to engage in public transportation of passengers. And the persons holding the existing franchise for the operation of taxi cabs within the city, if any, are under normal conditions inadequately serving the public. And number 4, under efficient and economical management, the holders of all existing franchises and the applicant for the one under consideration will, under normal conditions, earn a fair and reasonable return on their capital invested. 5.28 requires taxi franchises to pay 2% of gross receipts to the city, comply with all regulations the city council imposes, and not charge rates above those set by the city council. The applicant currently operates in the town of Mammoth Lakes and desires to provide taxi service in the city of Bishop as well. There are no existing taxi franchises operating within the city, and the applicant has expressed consent with all the regulations, rates, and provisions contained in the franchise agreements. With talking with Mr. Marzoni, he estimates his annual income as around $100,000 of the city. So it's a $2,000 income for the city. And legal assistant city counsel Keith Collins has reviewed this item and finds that the recommended action complies with the law. And I'd also like to add at the end that this is something very new. We have no taxis. We have a very old municipal code that talks about them. So I want to thank Keith for it took a lot to come up with this one. And we have shared the agreement already with Scotty, and I guess he shared it with his legal. And at this time, I know there's nothing that's causing a problem there. So Scott, would you like to add anything before we go further? You're still muted.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for having me and adding me to the agenda today. Just adding that I've been in Mammoth for about 30 years now and started Mammoth Taxi, the only company that was up there back in it was 04 that I took over Sierra Express Transportation and then eventually turned it into Mammoth Taxi to service our guests, our visitors, our residents. Airport was coming into Mammoth several years after that, so I was getting proactively ready to create an infrastructure that would be able to create a stable environment and the transportation necessary to be successful and to be financially responsible to continue doing it. And so since 04, I have done that in Mammoth, have had quite a bit of interest and questions from people in Bishop, and I thought it would be proactive again, a good time to get involved with both Inyo County and the city of Bishop and bring to you what I feel is a successful business plan and company. And not knowing exactly what Bishop's needs and necessity are going to dictate, but I have grown with Mammoth, with our airport, and would love to expand. I am, self-employed owner. Me and my wife run the company with about 14 drivers and 5 SUVs. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen in Bishop, but we want to be there to grow relationships and grow with the city of Bishop to be successful and create ground transportation for your local economy and guests and residents as well. So thank you for having me, and I will be open to any questions you might have later.
Thanks. Do we have any questions at this moment from staff?
Not a question, Mr. Mayor, but I do have an observation on further review of this. And out of all fairness to Mr. Marzoni, he hadn't heard of this before. But I would like to make a recommendation to the council that the council, if the council is inclined to approve this, the city attorney's office is going to, or my office is going to make a recommendation that we add some language, a paragraph into the franchise agreement, which basically states that the franchisee shall keep accurate records of all services provided under this agreement and allow city inspection of these records upon reasonable notice. I don't think it's very much of a substantive change, Mr. Marzoni. It's essentially just indicating that our expectation is that you'll maintain records. And the reason I'm doing this is that sometimes, the city would be concerned about, and I'm not suggesting in this particular instance, but on any taxi franchise agreement, that operators were keeping accurate records of their income and then accurately reporting what taxes would be due to the city. And that really is the only, short of perhaps metered requirements, the way of doing that in the event that the city needed to or had a need to audit those services. So that would just be a request, and that could be made in terms of direction to staff to add that language if council's inclination is to approve it. Thank you.
And thank you. And I completely understand it's part of our agreement with the town of Mammoth Lakes, which Mammoth Taxi LLC runs under already. We will be keeping separate records, log sheets, dailies, pickups, locations, times separately for Bishop Taxi. and be running that through separate bank accounts, separate credit card purveyors as well. So everything will be for a 7-year period, at least that's what I do currently, accessible to anybody from the city to come and inspect our offices. Yes.
I guess one question I have is with regards to the 2% rate. Is that for that ends up being paid for the city or to the city? Is that only for fares that originate or end in the city, or how does that work out? Like, as a prime example, if you're picking up somebody at the airport and taking them to Mammoth, does that fall under this agreement or no?
If I can answer briefly, my understanding is that within the city of Bishop, which is why I'm applying for this license and business, is you have to have a license to pick people up within the city limits to take them anywhere. So no outside companies at this point, the 5 or 6 that have started in Mammoth after me, will be able to service anybody from Bishop to go anywhere. Inyo County owns the airport property, so that wasn't part of it, but we're going to have a need down in Bishop now. We're going to have people staying at your hotels and residents needing to get to the airport, and people that have to stay in Bishop, irregardless if they were trying to get to Mammoth, and those people will need a service. That's what we would like to grow and provide within the city limits. Yes, and that revenue is for Bishop Taxi, everything that originates within the city limits, correct?
That originates within the city limits.
Correct.
So Scott, is your service, is there any reliance on Inyo County signing up on this, or is there stuff that has to go through Inyo County? I mean, I'd hate for you to be here and not be able to go to the airport, half a mile outside of Bishop.
No, and I have been in several meetings within the last few weeks, even with Ashley Helms. There is no business license needed for the Inyo County part of it. I started this process 18 months ago, pre-COVID, and we put the brakes on. So at this point, with the airport looking like it's going to happen, us like wanting to get a service within Bishop anyway, and me already having a proven business model and infrastructure that I can just bring in and hire locals and Inyo County workers and City of Bishop workers, I don't think there's anything that can hold anybody up at this point from going to the airport. I'm providing a service that will get anybody in Bishop to the airport, but we're also going to try some models out to service the City of Bishop. Festivals, weekends, regionally challenged, cars breaking down, all of that's needed all over the Sierra. And we're limited with everything being focused primarily in Mammoth right now. So growing and getting a business and eventually a brick and mortar location and yard is our goal, but we are going to grow intelligently, hopefully, and with purpose.
Thank you, Scott. And 2 real quick questions. They're kind of probably stupid, but I'm going to ask them anyways. Is the bus, or not the bus, the taxi going to have a kind of a Bishop brand to it? And it's going to be Bishop Taxi, so it's going to have its own name?
That is correct. It will be a separate entity. I am not sure how many cars, how many employees I'll be able to hire out of Bishop. When this phase starts, I would love to keep you all informed and in the loop on what I'm doing. It will have its own brand, but under the preface of Mammoth Taxi LLC, it might be a co-branded vehicle fleet to begin with. I have not settled on that yet.
Yeah, I don't expect to see the little yellow 1950 cars out of New York, but it'll be recognizable as a taxi.
Correct. Yellow glow lights on top of 4-wheel drive GMC Yukon XLs that say taxi on them. Yes.
Oh yeah, perfect. Thank you. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Scott, I just have a question about summer service for hikers. Is that in your business plan at all, or?
Currently, I have CUAs for Yosemite, and we have an authorization with Inyo North and South. So we service everything from Yosemite Valley to Mount Whitney currently.
Oh, great.
We can also, and I have all those permits in place with insurance that meets the standards of what this resolution entails as well. We are doing trailhead service all the time, and to have a base out of Bishop will reduce costs for our visiting guests and hikers coming here domestically and internationally. We've always had to service them from Mammoth.
Oh,
And
okay,
to go
great.
to Whitney, the hours involved creates a much bigger ticket price. And I know there's a couple of PUC certified shuttle companies down in the Eastern Sierra area, but they're nothing when I can bring 5 to 10 cars and create a lot more accessibility for our visiting guests and residents who want to do trailhead service, which is just parking a car at your exit of your hike. We take you to the beginning of your hike and you get back to your car at the end. Or if you're flying in, we do both legs of it and facilitate that so we can take you to the start of your hike and pick you up at the end and bring you back to Bishop.
Oh,
I
that's
think
fantastic.
it'll be a nice added touch for some transportation.
And can somebody comment on if this has been like presented to ESTA and how and their takes on it? Because I know that ESTA also does a shuttle service to the trailheads. It's very limited in that it goes once or twice a day, and I don't know. I don't want to get Phil Moore on the phone, but
well, we already do it
ESTA
from
can't
there.
charter. Like ESTA is not like that's you can't be a federally funded transportation agency and do charters. So it's a totally different business, and ESTA only can really do fixed routes. So.
And if I understood Scott correctly, and please, Scott, tell me if you're wrong, that they're already doing it. They're just doing it out of Mammoth instead of out of Bishop. And so it'll save everybody. So ESTA's already in this ballgame one way or the other. So am I right, Scott?
Right. I think we complement each other. Some people are set on their schedule and they set up their trips to be at a bus stop location when they know they're going to go up to South Lake, or they know they're going to go up to Whitney if they're providing those services that year. Last year, COVID, all that was all shut down and was left, a lot of it, completely to the private sector. But we do a port to port rate schedule. So legally, everything starts in Mammoth and ends in Mammoth right now, with the ability to start and end some trips out of Bishop. We're cutting out an hour and a half of travel time, therefore reducing the cost. But there's 5 companies out of Mammoth doing it all over the Sierra right now, somewhat regulated. I am a very just inline, black and white, on the money. I'm doing this proactively so I can have the city of Bishop have a legal taxi company and be able to do this from Bishop. And you guys know that you'll be able to support that with the infrastructure internally in the city of Bishop. And I think it's very important bringing in an airport to have that piece as well.
Sure. So I guess one thing that confused me a little bit here is when you say like the starting point has been Mammoth. If somebody in Bishop has been calling for a service, so you've been sending somebody from Mammoth to pick them up and then take them to a trailhead, is that what I'm getting from that? Or no?
I do most of it from Mammoth to North Lake, South Lake, Lake Sobrino, Whitney. Most of the people then come to Mammoth or stay in Mammoth and go in and out. I think this adds a piece where people then staying in Bishop will then be able to call a local company.
Oh, yeah. No.
We do very little stuff picking up outside, but we pick up at trailheads all over in the National Forest. We pick up in Yosemite. So the services are still being accomplished without having a legal taxi company in Bishop. We want to make sure we're staying in those black and white areas, and we service with Bishop Taxi. We service all those calls down.
I have a follow-up question, clarification. Mr. Marzoni, I believe I understood that you said that no other taxi service will be allowed to provide services once approved this franchise. Is that what you meant to say, or did I misunderstood you? What I'm trying to say is, can we authorize other taxi services besides this one?
Yes, and that we're not getting a monopoly on the service. we're just going to be the first legal taxi company in Bishop. And that is separate from PUC regulated shuttle companies, which we don't need to go into now, but you will have a taxi company. And when needed, need and necessity is what grows taxi companies and transportation. If you wish to have more, they'll go through the same process that I'm instigating now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question that might have been resolved or asked, but it may be for the whole council's benefit. So Scott, can you tell me, I know that per our agreement that's been drafted up with you, you have an in-town rate and an out-of-town rate. So if somebody wants to go from Bishop to Bishop, it's one rate. If somebody wants to go to Bishop to Mammoth, it's another rate. What do you do? I'm just curious, what do you do if somebody wants to, and those are two set flat rates is what you've chosen to go with here. I'm assuming that your flat rate from Bishop to Mammoth is not going to be the same as it would be from Bishop to LAX.
Correct. Everything is based on time and mileage, which the same thing that the shuttle companies of the PUC do. We take time and mileage and put them together into a formatted plan to come up with each thing, and everything is based on those two things. So going right now from Mammoth down to Bishop takes into account 2 hours of service, basically. We allow 45 minutes driving and load time and whatnot to go there, and the same to come back. So that is a flat rate. To go to LA, we take that into account. You get stuck in traffic, weather conditions, other things, we can add it on with a little bit of a time addition if we have extenuating circumstances. But our flat rates are based 99% accurate until there's construction, weather, hazard, extenuating circumstances. So our in-town service for Bishop, anywhere from in-town to in-town, will never exceed the $25. If they would like to rent a car to run errands, we'll tell them it's the $75 an hour as an SUV 4-wheel drive service dictates, and they can have the car from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and they'll pay an hourly rate instead of a flat rate.
So,
I'm sorry.
Karen?
to follow up with that, so how are you going to break up that $25 of in-town stuff? Is it by time? Is it by mileage? Does it add up? You're going to have one of those little things that they have in big city taxis?
We don't have a meter, but we've created an app that has not proved successful in Mammoth because of the broadband services available and other things. We have stuck with the flat rate. 20 minutes is the allotted time for the $25. That becomes $75 an hour. So 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes at 25. So if they were to get on the far reaches of Bishop on one end and want to go all the way to the other end, I don't think it'll ever be more than that.
I mean, I can walk from one part of town to the other in 20 minutes.
Right. Mammoth's not the same. It can take an hour to go from Vons to the Village sometimes in a blizzard. So we're going to work on this. This was a starting point. This was to show that we are going to create this need and necessity and make sure we can operate down there and be financially successful. We are a for-profit business, so we're going to keep that in mind. And we're not going into this to be charging exorbitant rates. We don't know what they are. They might go less. They won't go more under this contract for 3 years.
I have a question actually for Dean. When it comes to so effectively we're being asked to find that the 4 points exist. And sure, the first point I feel like I'm qualified to answer, but I mean, I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer the second one about the applicant is financially responsible. Like, no offense, Scott, I don't know you.
No, but I have been in business since 2004 in Mammoth, and we've been fiscally responsible, and we've made it through COVID as well. So
Sure.
So, Mr. Mayor, the language in the statute is horrible.
I think that's what I'm getting at.
It really is. It's an antiquated statute, the ordinance that it needs to be rewritten. And so I know that Destin is trying, and then my associate that I assigned this to was trying to, using language in modern days as to a fit and proper person. I'm not sure what that means either. So we're going to chalk this up to Destin has done his due diligence here in terms of research and preparing this to council. I know that there is a thought that we need to update this ordinance, which I agree with 100%. And I think that staff's done is what they can do with respect to the language that's in our code.
Okay.
And I'll add one short thing, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, that we have a maintenance program that can be inspected by the city. And we also will be doing our quarterly reports. And we will also be growing very intelligently, like I said before. We're not going to get above our britches. I've done this before. I've opened an airport services before. I've opened the town of Mammoth before. We're going to do this with the city of Bishop, not all on our own. We want to be part of the team and a solution before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, given that, do we have any public comment on this matter?
There is no public comment in the public comment email. Jenny, do you have any raised hands?
There are no raised hands.
Okay. So I guess what we're being asked to consider is whether there is public inconvenience and necessity for the issuance of such a franchise. I mean, in my opinion, I think there is. Then we're being asked, is the applicant financially responsible, which we discussed. I mean, you're still around, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen your private financial information, nor do I want to, but okay. Persons holding existing franchises which don't exist. So I think that's a moot point. And under efficient and economical management, the holders and the applicant for the one under consideration will earn a fair and reasonable return on their capital investment. I think that's up for you and the market to decide.
Exactly.
So I guess.
I think that one, Mr. Mayor.
I'm concerned about the idea that we're going to pass this and then change the language.
So
Steven's making a face at me like that's not I shouldn't worry about that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, just details, Councilmember Kong. It is always a possibility. Under the current agreement, I believe that violations or a change in the agreement would require a violation of the agreement and probably an opportunity to cure that. Now, I'm not saying, I do believe that council would have the ability, if they wanted to revamp the entire ordinance, which substantially impacted one or more franchise holder, which would only be one here. It probably was something that we would negotiate with the current franchise holder in a matter, just as a matter of equity and process. So I don't necessarily see this becoming a massive or major issue unless we had in the next year or 2 years, 10 other franchisees apply for, and where we said, I think we really need to update this ordinance. And then what that update would mean, we would probably go to Scott and to his council and to negotiate what that means and maybe work out something in between.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, not entirely related, but not entirely unrelated. We recently passed, we contracted with somebody to have a look at our existing municipal code and look for bad legal language. Is this the kind of thing that would get flagged in that or no?
I don't think we would contract with somebody to look for bad legal language, but just in terms of the sections that maybe need to be updated. I mean, there are probably a number of them in our municipal code that could be updated. This is just raising its head because we haven't had a taxi cab franchise application before for the city of Bishop. So there's probably other statutes that would pop up if we had a first impression application in that context. But you know, my office is always in works with Mr. Phillips and with the city clerk in terms of identifying which need to be updated. And frankly, Mr. Mayor, like which are priorities for staff to focus on given all the other items on the table.
Okay, so what do we think as a council?
I think it's fantastic. I'm super excited that you're investing in Bishop, and it's a good sign of economic development. So thank you for taking a risk on us.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Just one last thing. So there was a lot of discussion about what happens if he goes to LA, and has that included in our agreement? And it's in number 3, maximum rate established, that $25 in the city, but then the maximum rate can be $75 per hour for all other services. So it is clearly written out in here. I think we were not sure about that, but it is.
Okay, then at this point, since I don't see any more public comment, I will close the public hearing. And I guess to make it easier, I will make a motion that we find the public necessity and convenience are warranted, and that we adopt the resolution by title only, granting Mammoth Taxi LLC a franchise to provide taxi service within the city of Bishop, and authorize the city administrator to execute the modified franchise agreement to reflect the language that the city attorney mentioned previously.
I'll second.
Okay, Christina, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote. Not yet. We haven't voted.
Just one last check. Jenny, did we have any more raised hands or any comments?
No, there's no public comment.
Okay, so Dean, to do this correctly, do I read the resolution as presented and then say as amended?
Same way that you would normally just indicate at the end as amended by council.
Okay. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, approving a taxi franchise pursuant to Chapter 5.28 of the Bishop Municipal Code by title only, as amended by the council. Councilmember Kong?
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to working with you all.
Thank you very much for taking an interest in us. Cool. And now we move on to news. Our first item in new business. Consideration of request to approve the creation of 2 fire prevention officer positions and related job descriptions. I don't see Joe Dell being promoted. Maybe we should promote him.
I promoted him.
Hi, Joe.
Good
Welcome
evening.
back.
I'm excited to be back. I took the cab here. So the fire prevention officer is the position that we approved in this year's budget. It's going to give us the ability to increase our capacity in education, inspections, and enforcement. And it's going to help us follow local law, as in 2018 Senate Bill 1205 that mandated reporting for inspections that were already required by law. So it's just going to give us a foot up and actually help us prevent quite a few fires that we've been having in case, and then give us some more capacity here at the fire department. It is a shared cost position with the Bishop Rural Fire Protection District. It's anticipated to be paid for in majority by fees. We also have a pretty good feedback from a CAL FIRE prevention grant that they are looking to pay for the position for 25% for 2 years. Also, they're looking at paying the administrative assistant for 10%, but we're not counting on that completely. It's definitely not a done deal yet. There's 2 job description there, the Fire Prevention 1, which is like an entry level, Fire Prevention 2, which is more experienced, has more certificates and education there. And then we should start, with your approval tonight, we should start marketing and hopefully hire end of September, early October. And then the salary schedule. So I'm asking for you guys to approve both job descriptions. No, I'm not going to hire both of them. And then the salary schedule tonight.
I mean, this is a position that has been needed for quite a while. And I think it's great to finally see it on here. At this point, when you float the application for it, are you just gonna do an open hiring, and it could be for either of the 2 positions depending on qualifications, and then you'll see who you end up getting?
Yeah, so I'll float for the Fire Prevention 1 and Fire Prevention 2, and then we'll do. I found a national testing network. It's a firefighter testing network that'll do a 4-week marketing campaign for us. We'll do an online test with them. And then they really look for attitude, compatibility, interpersonal skills. And then after that, we'll do a peer panel interview with, I'll ask Mammoth and CAL FIRE to help with bringing in some professionals, and then a final fire chief interview. So we can get somebody, the minimum requirements allow for our volunteers to apply. And then we've also got it set in that if we have some really great applicants from outside, we can hire them as well.
Any comments, questions from the council?
I'm just glad that it came.
You got no sound, Stephen.
Sorry, you couldn't hear me? Karen, did you say? I know, Karen Kong, did you say something or no?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz. I'm glad it's finally coming around. And Jim, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, just a quick question. I see the salary schedule. Are there any additional costs on that, such as health insurance or anything that we're not seeing that will add? I mean, it's a doable number. I do agree that, yeah, we do need it. I just want to, what's the total?
Yeah, well, the total will depend on who we hire, whether they're entry level or they're more experienced. And then on top of that is the full PEPRA. And then also there are some management group stipends that can add on, just like the public works people. There's for certificates, there's a benefit to having more and more certificates at 2.5 cap at 15%. So it'll be hard to tell, but I feel that we're going to fall within our budget for the next couple of years.
And those other parts are also included in the cost sharing agreement with the rural fire district, correct? Okay, do you have any public comment?
We do not have any public comment on the public comment email. Do we have any raised hands?
There are no raised hands.
I will make a motion to approve the proposed fire prevention officer job descriptions and to add the proposed fire prevention officer salary to the current City of Bishop monthly salary scheduled as presented.
I will quickly second that.
Okay, Christina, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Kong?
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia?
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Mahovey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, our next item is Cal City's 2021 resolutions, where we are to review and provide the city's voting delegate and alternate voting delegates direction regarding the council's position on the California League of Cities resolutions to be voted on at the General Assembly. Is this going to you, Ron?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Mahovey. The California League of California Cities Conference is being held next month, and these two resolutions are being considered at the business meeting. Mayor Mahovey is to participate as the registered voting delegate, and council members Kong and Garcia will be there as alternates in case, if that's necessary. The first resolution has to do with online sales tax equity, providing a fair and equitable distribution of the Bradley Burns 1% local sales tax from in-state online purchases based on data where products are shipped to. And the resolution is calling on the state legislature to pass legislation to put that in place. The second resolution is related to railroad property maintenance, calling upon the governor and the legislature to provide funding for the California Public Utilities Commission to fulfill its obligation to inspect railroad lines to ensure that operators are removing illegal dumping, graffiti, and homeless encampments. This is on here just for you to discuss and give direction to Mayor Mahovey and the two alternates as to how you would like them to vote. There's really no motion necessary.
Okay. So with that in mind, I guess my understanding of the first one is that right now, the way that a lot of the sales tax is getting calculated in the state is if an area opens a distribution center, if a big company opens a distribution center, then the sales tax is provided to the location of where the distribution center is, as opposed to the final destination of the goods that are purchased. And that obviously doesn't seem fair to me. So, are there any thoughts
It's
on
sales
that one?
tax. It's a total mess across the board, but sure, this is like one step in maybe the right direction, but it's a complete nightmare. So sure, yes, let's support it.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
I'm a yes.
All right. So I think we're in support of that one.
Yes.
Okay. And then the second one relates to securing railroad property maintenance, where we're asking the legislature to provide funding so that railroads can be maintained. I mean, I'm kind of ambivalent. We don't have a railroad, but I don't know. What do people think on that?
I guess
Anybody have any strong opinions?
I don't really have any strong opinions about it because, like you said, we don't have a railroad, but it does sort of seem like a passing the buck kind of a thing, right? That if there's a homeless encampment by your railroad, then I don't know why that's necessarily the railroad's responsibility, but I'd have to read more about it to really have a strong opinion.
Karen, I think you're on the right track, that it's cities begging and pleading for help in Victorville and areas where they have this problem, and trying to find state funding for it, and maybe piggyback on the back of a railroad, that it's to help clean up your railroad. It's truly to clean up their cities. But I think if it's money that can go out there to help from the state level, I would say support it.
I guess the question is, what is the funding going to be taken away from? Right?
There's unlimited funding in the state.
Because the California Public Utilities Commission, I mean, they're in charge of like power line inspections and broadband and other aspects of public utilities.
I think the intention is that since there's a budget surplus, that money come out of the surplus and be added to the commission's budget for this purpose.
Yeah, and Stephen, the way that these work, it's the league puts it forward as a resolution to the state, whether or not they even act on it or talk about it. But it's showing the conformity of all the cities towards one direction. So once it gets there, then it's got to jump through another 10, 20 hoops to get to actual funding.
Yeah, I mean, given that, it seems like, I mean, if there were something similar about federal highway or by state highways or whatever, and we would be advocating for increased funding to deal with sorts of graffiti. So are we thumbs up, thumbs down on this one?
Sure, thumbs up.
All right. Okay. Then I think we have direction on both of them. And we can move on to our last item of new business, which is the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority.
I'll take it. The Joint Powers Insurance Authority annual Board of Directors meeting is in October. And 2 council members have been designated as the voting delegate and the alternate to this meeting. However, both of those individuals are unable to attend. I will be attending, and Robin Picken will be attending because it's in conjunction with a risk management conference that we're going to. And so my suggestion is that the council assign me as an alternate, which means I can fill in for those that are not there.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to back up for 1 second. I can see that there's not, but I want to confirm with our city or acting city clerk there that there was no public comments on the last agenda item before we move on. Can you confirm that for us?
There were no public comments in the public comment email. Jenny, did you have any raised hands on that?
There were no raised hands.
Thanks. And sorry, Mr. Mayor, that was me.
Sorry, Dean.
That was me muting you, trying to unmute myself. So sorry about
that.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Ron.
So I guess this, so with regards to the JPIA, it seems, so we typically have, we set those representatives as part of the committee reshuffle at the beginning of the year. And both of our primary and alternate can't go, but we do and it's apparently in that event, we can just have a representative of the city vote, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, unless
a council member has to be the primary delegate, but a staff member can be an alternate. So that's why I suggested that you designate me as an alternate and I'll fill in.
I think that's fine. And I see everybody nodding their heads. So do we, I guess I'll move that we appoint City Administrator Ron Phillips as voting delegate alternate for this CJPIA 2021 Annual Board of Directors meeting scheduled in October 7, 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, Christina, we have a motion, a second. Call for the vote.
They were kind of talking over each other. Who seconded that?
Karen Schwartz got it in.
Okay. All right. Vote to have Ron serve as the alternate. Councilmember Kong,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Schwartz,
Yes.
and Mayor Mahovey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, future agenda items. Jim.
Nothing at this time.
All right, Jose. Karen Kong. Karen Schwartz. Okay, the only thing I want to make sure is that we make sure to have the strategic plan on what we do to try to get lands for housing. So just let's make sure we still have that. Council and committee reports. Jim.
Okay, that's my wife in the background talking. It's her birthday.
Happy birthday, Cammie.
Thank you. Had opportunity to represent SCOG at the meeting with Mr. Kirk. You guys can talk about it more, but great meeting. And to echo, I think what Ron was saying, just a guy that was interested in our area and had actual ideas and seemed like he's going to be someone we'll be able to work with well. Regionally, from the SCOG standpoint, I think, again, he's gonna help us out immensely. And then just a quick ESTA update on a meeting I had through ESTA. The electric bus that has been talked about before, all electric bus is set to come to Bishop. It should be here next May. It's ordered, approved, and we'll be here and we'll have a little electric bus running around Bishop. So that is it for me.
Cool. Jose.
I had the, the opportunity to attend the meeting and the installation dinner for the Bishop Area Chamber of Commerce. Also attending the LTC meeting, rather nicely done short meeting last LTC. Those are usually a little bit long, but pretty packed agendas. Very important things we do there. Also, the week of August 9th to the 13th, as Mr. Phillips mentioned earlier, the Mexican consulate out of Fresno, who serves 8 counties in the state of California, including Inyo County, they have a service that they call the mobile consulate, which is they bring about 10 or 12 staff members around the cities within these 8 counties. And they provide some limited services, but very important services, such as issuing passports and consular IDs and voting IDs, which the voting ID is like the California ID, is the main form of identification in Mexico. And other services, such as double citizenship, registration of children born in the US when both parents are Mexican. And they were here for, their plan was to be here for 5 days, Monday through Friday. They had set 400 appointments, and however, upon arrival, they find out that the Cerro Coso Community College is closed on Fridays. So they were here, they left Friday morning, but all those appointments that they had set for Friday, they moved them to Monday and Tuesday. So for various reasons, some people didn't show up to their appointments. However, there were over 100 or 200 people that showed up without an appointment. And overall, the consulate provided services to over 600 Mexican nationals, who some of them were from Mono County, and some of them from way out of the area. People drove from Northern California, from Southern California, the Central Valley, from everywhere, they drove to Bishop to get services from the Mexican consulate. And on Wednesday, the 11th, Mr. Phillips and I had a chance to meet with the head counsel, Ms. Adriana Gonzalez, and 3 other representatives. It was a nice meeting. They offer providing support to all of the Inyo County and city agencies that provide services to residents in the area. So we'll be working together with the Mexican consulate, and I presented the head counsel a city pen, and a city coin. She was very happy.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you say it again, please?
Siri wants me to repeat that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. She did ask that we pass a proclamation this month, next month. There's going to be the 90th anniversary of the Mexican consulate in Fresno and the 211 years of the Mexican independence. So I am working with the office, the consulate office, on the wording that they can approve and that we can approve to have this proclamation hopefully presented to council for approval next meeting. And I did offer to drive to Fresno and present it myself. And September 15, it's Mexico's Independence Day celebration. And I have been invited to that celebration in Fresno. So hopefully, or maybe I'll be over there in about 3 weeks or so. So that's my report.
Great. It's great that they have continued this service, especially since I believe it didn't happen last year, right?
They didn't. The last time they were here was around October of 2019. Mm-hmm. They started coming to Bishop in 2017, to be exact. And they were coming twice a year. But last year, because of COVID, they didn't. And they do plan on coming back next year with the twice a year schedule. And just like they drove all the way from Fresno, any Mexican national from Inyo County who needs any type of documentation or assistance from the consulate, we have to drive to Fresno. So now they are coming at least twice a year, providing services to all of the residents of Inyo County.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Council and committee report, Karen Kong.
So I feel like sort of as usual, I've been doing a lot of discussions with people about our homeless population and low-income housing and such. So I went to the public meeting for the IMACA Navigation Center, which is also on the Planning Commission agenda for tomorrow night, and learned a bunch of stuff about that. And then because of that, I was invited to a funding meeting with IMACA to talk about different and new funding streams. We had a outside consultant come in. Mr. Emerson had wanted to hire her company to do a little needs assessment for us, but they're too busy, but she was willing to come and talk money with us, which was great. And then I also attended a continuum of care meeting. So any of you who don't know, it's a group that shares funding and works with IMACA, and it's Mono County and Inyo County as well. And so I found out some of the things that Mono County is doing, and to see if we can maybe put them in use here or something similar to that. Last week, I was thrilled in my inbox to see a draft of the OBGA plan. So we have them. We have a meeting the first week of September where we're going to review it and agree whether or not to put it out to the public for public comment or not. So very exciting. And then, of course, I did love our meeting with Derek Kirk. I hope that we really get to work with him, and he gave us some great and brilliant ideas for my little quest with the old Kmart building. And the last thing is I want to thank Councilmember Ellis and Phil from ESTA, as well as John Vallejo from the Inyo County Council for having a meeting with me and helping me to resolve some of my concerns about families and accessibility on the ESTA buses. I think we came up with a great solution, and I'm excited to see it start to slowly roll out. So thank you, Jim. And Phil, if you're watching, thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. One quick question about the OVGA. Does that document need to end up going to all of the individual members for ratification as well, or is it just going through a straight up down vote from the members of the OVGA?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to. Destin, I know you'd have to be promoted. What I know is happening is that we're reading it, we're agreeing whether or not to release it for public comments. And that's going to happen for, I think he said 90 days prior to a vote. I don't know who all is doing the voting. Here comes Destin to answer your question.
Well, because I know that we have more votes than, say, other entities, but yeah. Destin, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so definitely once it goes out to public review, and then Council Member Kong, she's just the member representing you, as you all know. So yeah, we should definitely, all the council should look at it, review it, and there's a lot to it, or ask Council Member Kong or myself to any of the highlights there. But yeah, and you're right, we have more votes than, say, Inyo County has, us Inyo County and Mono County have more votes than the others. So we definitely need to make sure we're making the right votes, because we will, between us and Inyo County, can carry this thing.
So it might be something worthwhile maybe putting on an agenda for later, during the comment period, maybe, to discuss it.
Yeah.
We can all talk about it together. And thank you for coming and saving me, Destin. I appreciate that.
No worries.
All right. Is that all? Okay. Council and committee reports from Mayor Pro Tem.
I went to an ESTA meeting, and in addition to the awesome electric van that is coming, they are, as you know, moving offices because the airport is going to have commercial flights coming very soon. So they have a tentative move date into their new offices, not the new building, but like the temporary offices on August 26th. And they have been, Reds Meadow has been this really profitable shuttle for them, and it continued to be again this year, despite the fact that they have very limited drivers. They have a driver shortage, but it's just a huge windfall for ESTA, which helps the entire organization fund all of our transportation services. And it's always full, and people want to go down to Reds Meadow from Mammoth. The other thing that's going on is their capital revenue and expenses were far less than they budgeted. And they, due to some replacement vehicle purchases and the delay of the Bishop Administration Building project. So ESTA's in a solid financial footing currently. And then we had the SCOG meeting, and we got a presentation from Inyo County and from Mammoth Lakes Tourism about the upcoming airlines that are coming. So I'll just give you guys a quick overview of what we heard. There's going to be a charter airline coming, and that's going to be from Burbank, Carlsbad, and Hawthorne, and they're going to have service 4 to 6 days a week. And it's not going to be a TSA airline. It's I think it's a 30 passenger plane. So also you can get a 20% locals discount code for off direction travel. So for flights that are coming into the area, we get 20% off for the outbound flight. So that's cool. And then, what's that?
That's the Mammoth portion.
Oh, right. For Mammoth, for the charter one. That's right. You're right. Thanks, Jim, for clarifying. And then United is going to be the airline that is going to fly into Bishop. And that service is going to start December 16th. And they are going to have flights from San Francisco, Denver, and Los Angeles. And then they have some transportation established for rental cars, which is through Enterprise. And then they're looking for some, like we heard from Mammoth, taxi, some more transportation from the airport to the destinations that the customers want to go to. So that was pretty exciting. And then they're building a big kind of tent-like structure in York County is to be the terminal. And it's just super exciting. It was like, I don't know, 6 years ago that this all started, and now it's coming to fruition. So pretty exciting. And then what else did we talk about in NESCOG? We had we update, let me go back to my notes here. We approved a resolution for that big project that we got a grant for, which is kind of the fuels reduction project up in Mammoth that Janet Hatfield from Plume Corporation received. And we submitted that letter that we approved at the last meeting regarding the redistricting commission. And we talked about hosting a fall 2021 regional housing strategy roundtable. So more to come on that. And that's it. So it was a long meeting, but we ended right on time. So that's all I have to report.
That's exciting. So we're finally, that it looks like after all of these delays, it's actually going to happen. It's really cool.
Yeah. I'm sorry for my confusion on the charter bus. I was so focused on the airport, but it's going to Mammoth.
Oh, no worries. From my end, basically pretty much everything got covered. I met with Derek Kirk from the Officer of the Governors in Economic Development. It was a great meeting where we discussed issues that affect particularly rural areas and how to make funding more available and known to smaller entities that don't have a large staff to just be able to follow up on everything that the state is going on. The LTC had pretty light agenda. There are lots of Caltrans projects, particularly south of us, Manzanar, Big Pine, et cetera, whose public comment period is ending in a week. And after that public comment period ends, that is when people lose their chance to speak out. And so I want to make sure you go to the Caltrans site and look at all of the projects that are going on right now. It's mainly to deal with Manzanar, Fish Springs, Lone Pine, and then of course we also have the Bishop pavement one going on. Because this is the public comment period, and after this, they'll just start, the cones go up, and at that point, you'll just start complaining and you've literally lost your chance. So please comment at this point. And then the last thing, I went to the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors installation dinner. It was super fun. I ate a lot of pizza, and then the next week I went on a really long run. So that was good. And if there's nothing else, I will. Yes.
I'd just like to commend Christina for doing a great job tonight in Robin's absence, and Jenny for being great support.
Absolutely. You guys did a great job. And With that, I will adjourn until, our next meeting is Monday, September 13, which is after the fair. So please attend the fair, submit your pies. The category this year is berry pie. And definitely submit a pie and cookies because I will be judging them. And yeah, have a great time at the fair. Have a great day.
Good night, everyone.